Hello, thank you for joining my live stream. My name is Jen, and I'm a VSG athlete. And today I wanted to go over a recent marathon I did, my first marathon back since my VSG surgery in 2021. So there was definitely a lot of preparation, a lot of training involved. There were trial and errors with things that I needed to stay hydrated and to stay nourished through all of the miles. But yeah, so we'll start with my pre-race prep. So the weeks and days leading up to the race, I definitely knew I needed to stay hydrated. That's a huge thing because, you know, us who have this VSG tummy, it's small, it's a few ounces. And that's a big deal when you're doing 26.2 miles. So with that, I made sure that I stuck to my water. I added the liquid IV powder because that is what works for me. Although there's a bunch out there, but that one just, it sits better with my tummy. So staying hydrated, made sure, didn't forget, you know, the vitamins, none of that. And I felt pretty good going into race weekend. I did do a 5K the day before, but it was walking. So I didn't feel like I, you know, overexerted myself or anything. Although there was some hills in there, but again, I kept my water with me and had snacks along the way. And even as they had ambassadors, you know, we had to run around and like take photos and do some extra things with Los Angeles Marathon. I made sure I kept my backpack, snacks, water the whole time. Didn't care because I knew that was something I needed. And even though I was doing all the fun stuff, I wasn't just going to stop taking care of myself to do all of that. So that's how I went into race weekend. And when it came to race morning, same thing. Woke up, started hydrating. I, you know, had to go pee a few times, and that's part of it, you know. I did get a migraine. That's just because my lady stuff, you know, started. So that wasn't fun or exciting, but you know, things happen. I knew there was going to be some hiccups along the way, and you just kind of roll with it. So did that race morning. I was really lucky enough to have a VIP pass to get into this tent that had all kinds of things for the athletes, like bagels, cream cheese, breakfast bars, more water. They had some juice, electrolytes, and there was our own area for bathrooms and stretching, which was a huge deal for me because I knew that I needed to stretch my body out beforehand. So I definitely was super thankful and took advantage of that. And it made for a nice, calm race morning, which was so needed because I was stressed out leaving this valley, you know, Antelope Valley, getting down there in time. We had to park the car in Century City and then get shuttled to Dodger Stadium. But once I got in that tent, everything was amazing and went super smooth. So continued on with hydration, got those stretches in, and everything was going really, really great. So get to the marathon, I'd get up to my starting line. Normally I would start in a corral that is further back, just because of my pace, it's not that fast. But I also, because I was an ambassador, I got to go into a closer to the front corral, which was B. And I knew with my knees kind of being achy and having issues from putting in the long miles already, that eventually I was going to fall backwards and meet up with the training group that I had been working with for months. So I took advantage of that and stayed in Corral B, started there, and I believe about 9 miles in is where they had caught up to me, and I stuck with them for another few miles. But throughout this, I had my vest on. I made sure I kept taking drinks from it. I had it fully loaded. I had my Boom energy gels. I had already taken the salt tablets, you know, because I don't want my muscles to get dehydrated and then get cramps. But sure enough, that still happened. So even though I felt amazing through it, like mentally, emotionally, physically, my quads started to cramp, and like, it's weird, the top of my foot started to cramp, my left one mostly, a little on my right, and that didn't feel so great. And you know, I kept taking the salt tablets. I had my dates, I had my almonds, I had all these things that I had used and prepped for during training, but for some reason these aches and cramping just kicked in, and my pace slowed down. I would do walks like more than usual. Normally I run 4 minutes, walk a minute, run 4, walk a minute, and it's like a power walk, but it became pretty difficult. So I just walked huge chunks, and I went from my like 12:30 pace down to like a 20-minute walk. Then when I felt good again, I started jogging, and that continued on probably like the last maybe mile 18 through 26. And, you know, I wasn't going to be hard on myself with it. I knew there's things that are going to happen. This is my first one back. So I'm going to keep pushing as best as I can, but I'm also not going to beat myself up, because that's just not helpful to anybody. To me, I'm not going to go into seeing our cheer station like, I don't feel good. It was just, hey, this is something and I'm going to learn from it. And that's what I did when I came across our cheer station at mile 20. That was amazing to see all of our friends and family and these wonderful volunteers that we had. It gave me an extra little boost. Cramps didn't go away, but it kind of made it easier to process. So that was really wonderful. And the energy from the crowd, like, it was such a huge turnout this year, which was amazing. It's like pre-COVID turnout. So there's a lot more runners, there's a lot more volunteers. And if you saw my video, you know, I said I had a piece of watermelon from someone. When you're out there and you're doing this hard stuff, at some point, at least for me, there was a moment where I'm like, well, I'm just going to try things because I can feel the cramp setting in, and you know, I'm going to roll with it. So someone was handing out watermelon chunks. It took me, I think, a little over a mile to finish this little watermelon chunk. I just had it in little bits and pieces, but it was refreshing. It helped keep me going, and I'm super thankful for that. So I think I even had a piece of an orange over another couple miles. And, you know, we come prepared, but to have these other things is really, really nice. And I was super thankful for all of these people, for strangers out there giving us support and like good vibes. It was amazing. So yeah, when I was coming towards mile 25, I noticed the trucks, and those things, the cleanup trucks, they come in this huge wave, and it took me back to 2020. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I know they move fast. I've been on the course as a volunteer when I, was recovering and wasn't allowed to run. Um, I see once the police let them go, they swirl through the streets, they clean up any of the cups, any of the junk that's left over, and they just scoot on through the rest of the route. So even though I knew I was only like a little over a mile away, seeing them triggered this like, oh my gosh, you got to move, girl. I don't want to be swept up. I don't want to be kicked to the sidewalk and told like, the route is closed. You have to finish on the sidewalk. And by the time you get to the finish line, it's going to be torn down. So that was like an extra little fire underneath me. And I definitely, use that to my advantage. I got that little gusto, and there was still people there cheering in as they kind of funnel you, what I call like the chute. They funnel you through the finish line, or towards the finish line, and all these wonderful people were there cheering for their friends, their families, strangers. Someone's doing, I don't know, outside. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. But I appreciated that, and that gave me that little boost to keep on going. And I was so thankful to see the finish line still up. And I'm glad it's on video, because in my head it was like a blur. Like there was so many feelings, overwhelming gratitude and just appreciation to be out there. And to experience it in a different way. So it's nice to have it on video where I can look back and go like, okay, there was a lady, once I crossed the finish line, didn't know her or anything, and she tapped me on the shoulder and was like, great job, you did it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that as runners, that's a wonderful community to have. That we support each other and we don't even know each other, and it's amazing. So yeah, I had those cramps through it. There's definitely a lot to learn and adjust. I can't wait to get started on training again. I'm not going to start training just 6 months out. I'm going to start up again in like another month or so. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. My time, I trained to come in at 5 hours, 30 minutes. Because of these hiccups, I came in at 6 hours, 40 minutes. Still, it's an improvement from 2020 when it was 9 hours and 2 minutes. But for me, it's still something I want to continue to improve on. I want to work hard. I want to do better and better and better. And that's just me. That's what I'd like to do. So when I came in post-race, again, continued with the waters. I started drinking some of the electrolyte that they had given out, but I definitely didn't want to have that throughout the course. And that's because in previous trials and the other years, that stuff just kind of sloshed in my stomach, and it made me really puffy. Everything swelled on me, and it was highly uncomfortable. And with this race, the only uncomfortable thing was the cramps, which is something, now I think I'm gonna, I have to do things to adjust to fix that. But yeah, I just didn't want that awful feeling I had in my other 2 marathons. So I had the electrolyte afterwards, and that started to help. But yeah, my post race, I think I had a few French fries and some ranch, because that's what was available. I still had my snacks, some leftovers, and my vegan beef jerky, which was fantastic. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on afterwards. It was just more stay hydrated, but I still felt really good. I never hit that like 18-mile, wall, which was great. These miles just seemed to be like ticking past, all probably up and through like 17 or 18. And then when the cramps kicked in, which was nice. That was such a good experience. And again, I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, the next day, like I knew I was dehydrated. And the next day I went to Kaiser and, gave them a sample. My urine was like pretty dark. It was almost brown. And I knew I needed an IV. Like I only needed one another time before when I first started training, and I went out all like crazy and like, I'm going to do this, and didn't know, how my body was going to react. So I needed an IV like pretty much after the doctors gave me the go to like, you can start up again. So I knew with this that my body, I needed that IV because there was no way I'm going to rehydrate myself in a short enough time, like to fix this. But still, I wasn't feeling bad or like awful or funky or anything. I just knew because of the color of that, hey, something's up and I need to get like that IV. So I did. I went there and gave my sample. When the physician's assistant came in, I was like immediately lectured. And, I said, this is what I did yesterday. This is the surgery I've had. I've done everything through training. I knew going in, this is what my body tolerates. Like pretty much I did my due diligence, and not sure how this happened, but this is where I'm at now. And none of that was listened to. I've never experienced like anything that awful with them ever. I've always had great experiences with Kaiser. I don't know if it was like an off day or they're just kind of, trying to get people in and out as the years progress. But that was a really, really terrible experience because she, without even checking, she immediately started to tell me that they don't give IVs to people. They really don't, want to just go off and give them because it introduces new bacteria to the skin. And in my head, I was like, well, okay, but this is something that I know I need. And I said, well, if you don't want to do that, then what should I be doing to fix this? And her response was, oh, well, let me go check your sample and see what we're working with. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? So you're coming at me, but you don't even know what we're working with here. So she did. A couple minutes later, came back and said, oh, you're really, really, or it's really, really concentrated. Yeah, I know. I did this. I've lived it. I've seen it. I know it's concentrated. So she stopped lecturing me on the importance of staying hydrated and sent a nurse in with the IV bag. And then this one started in on me. And again, I felt like I had to prove myself. Like, this is what I've done. This is, I have trained for this. I didn't just do a marathon all like willy-nilly and, not prepared my body for it. But that's what I was being pretty much like lectured on and given is you need to drink 16 ounces for every 30 minutes of activity and, all of this. And I'm like, I know. And I also have to stay nourished through this. But literally everything I said was just like glossed over. They were definitely adamant about lecturing. So You know, I didn't go in there for accolades or like congratulations or any of that. Like I took my medals because I was hoping to show, and like it's a big deal, you know, doing this, learning as I go, and with not much info out there, I was super proud of what I had accomplished. And you know, I was just kind of hoping to show it like a little badge of honor thing, but not going in there searching for that, just saying like, hey, this is what I did, but this is how I need help. Can you help a girl? So it was a really awful experience with that. I just ended up shutting down, and I have depression. Depression comes and goes. It'll go on hiatus and sometimes it'll come full force, but you know, I choose not to take medicine, and I haven't for a few years because it, like I could run and it helped things out a lot. So yeah, I just haven't been on that. But from that experience, it definitely set me into like a downward spiral. I left there crying. I came home crying. And I slept. I slept for days because, you know, that's how I dealt with it. That like different things are triggers, and I didn't feel like I could like say enough for myself while I was there because I was already being ignored, and I'm going to have someone, you know, jab this big needle in my arm. I don't want them noodling around, so I'm not going to say anything to where I think it's going to upset them, you know, even though they should never do that. But, you know, all those things cross my head. And yeah, that's where I was at. So it, you know, it took me a few days, and I'm still kind of just coming back from it, not necessarily bouncing back. It's a work in progress, but depression kicked in, and you know, here I am, first day putting makeup back on and just trying to do my best to navigate this. So lessons that I've learned. First, I'm going to try and adjust the hydration, but second to that, I'm going to get my electrolytes and get an IV probably the day before the next marathon. And, you know, I have no interest in getting the help from Kaiser afterwards. They really, really soured that experience. So I will be saving money. I know it's a couple $100s, if not more, to go somewhere that does this for athletes and those who need it. And I am willing to save to not have that experience because it really launched me into something very dark, and I don't want that for myself again. And I wouldn't want that for anyone else. So those are a couple of the lessons learned. But I think with hydration, it's going to keep me from cramping. And that's the biggest one in it. And second, or, you know, third to all of that is it's easier said than done to not let someone like steal your thunder or dull your shine, because I went in there really great, just thinking I'm gonna get this and, you know, be back on track. Like I've done all my research and I've done my homework and I put in the work, and you know, that's it. I'm just gonna go in and continue on and have a really great week celebrating like Metal Monday and all these things that runners do. And that wasn't the case at all. So that lesson is really like, be kind to yourself, but don't let others steal your shine. It's just, it's not helpful. And I know I did accomplish something really great, but you know, next time I think it'll be that much better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry for all this, but it's depression. It's a very real thing, and there are, you know, ebbs and flows. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me. Let's go into some of these comments. So Crystal, I'm so sorry that happened. So not right. I can't stand that preconceived judgment and no listening. And you're right. Maybe it was a busy day or whatever, but still, I agree. And, you know, I don't know if they've done marathons before. They know what it's like. Didn't look like they've had VSG surgery, but, you know, kindness matters a lot. And, you know, had I not had the support at home, I think that could have gone very differently. And, you know, they don't know, like, how you treat someone matters. So lesson learned there. I will save my money to not deal with that. Crystal, nurses literally saved my life years ago with their words. I don't think they realize how much impact they have. Exactly, just as I said. I don't think they do. And, you know, it could go both ways, where it's really great and it saved your life. And if you're being treated this way and they don't know your background, they don't know you, like, you may not have that support when you come home. Or when I was talking in our ambassador group, this really great group of people that I trust and I value, and they're a whole nother set of family to me. And, you know, hearing their words of support and their kindness through this meant a lot. But if someone doesn't have that, it could go very differently. So, yeah. Thank you for the hugs. And I am doing my best. And I hope that this helps people. If it helps just one person, then it's absolutely worth it. But I really appreciate you for watching. I appreciate everyone for hanging out. Thank you for commenting, Crystal. And I'm super excited that you're going to get your surgery soon enough. So until next time, everyone, I'll be putting out a short soon, just going over a marathon weekend and all the fun. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Send me your questions even after the fact. I am literally an open book, and I really appreciate everything. So until next time, sending light, love, and happiness.